we're going to use a very common, very typical ERP program that's still very common today, but certainly was popular over the last 10 years. So for mid-sized companies, you're looking at about a 5-year timeline for a single major implementation and then a single major optimization. Now, companies are smart. They know that you shouldn't be endeavoring on such a big project without a structure in place. So before the implementation launches, they build out a project management structure that includes methodologies and tools. In reality, they may start to build the PM out before the kickoff of the implementation, but for the majority of companies, the PM build out is neither as simple or as quick as they thought. So that is being built out as the implementation has already kicked off. Now, this disguises yet a bigger problem, and that is that the requirements and the selection project, which occurred before the PM structure was even a thought, was done with maybe a little bit of project management support. One of the leaders put in a few hours to make sure that people were doing what they needed to do to get this project done. But it was done outside the confine of what would be the project management structure. We're going to talk about why that's such a big problem in a second. But even with the project management structure being built out at the early portion of the implementation stage itself, there's usually a period of time where compliance drops off and people aren't doing the task updating the way they should. And then they kind of get in line and they hold status meetings. And then there's another period where the weekly status meetings start to really fall off, and they're constantly either postponed or just canceled. And then when the go live period starts to near, people get more regimented again, and then they start updating tasks and doing all of those project management and admin steps. Now, notice from requirement selection to implementation, this is a different work stream. What does that mean? It means this was not done with the full expectation that it would be fully leveraged for the implementation. And when the implementation is done, there isn't a deep planning for the full leveraging of their discovery findings and any other data into the optimization. Now, you may think that couldn't possibly be the case, but we'll show you. ERP.ai works completely differently. It's designed very specifically for ERP, and as such, it encapsulates all the needs of the entire ERP lifecycle, and it really doesn't allow you to waste effort. So here's what we mean. First of all, we start off making sure that you understand the tool is designed to manage the entire lifecycle, so every phase. So instead of PM being a little floating layer on top of a project, like you just saw in the previous slide, any ERP activity or project is merely a component of the ERP lifecycle management tool. So in other words, we don't go around filling out a spreadsheet, collecting needs from people on whether the current system works well or not. And that data being just in a random list, it's hard to use. We have a very specific structure by which the company will be determining whether the current system will make it or they're going to have to move on to a new system. That same data, all the analysis that was done in the scoping exercise, doesn't get duplicated, doesn't get copied or moved. It just naturally flows and is used for the requirements gathering and system selection phase. So when this is done, the intention is that all of the knowledge, findings, and analysis gets utilized for the implementation itself. Now, how is this different from the common model today? Well, today, the design of the implementation, of the system starts here. In our model, when you're doing the demos with all the various vendors, and you'll find that no system is perfect for you, but several are pretty good for you and some are just flat out the wrong fit. But of the ones that are a pretty good fit, you start thinking already about what it is you're going to have to personalize, configure, build out, add modules for, build integrations into, so that it becomes a perfect system for you. Well, since you've done that here while the company was doing the demos, you already know what you're going to be doing from an extra design effort, from an extra configuration effort in the implementation. So you cut out a lot of that 30 to 60 to 90 days that is designated for design, and you get going much more quickly. Now, when you're done with the implementation, you take a break and you move into the optimization phase one. Again, you're not moving or copying anything. You simply roll all of the information that you have forward into an optimization wave. Take a break, do that again. So to add a little bit of detail, we know at the end of the first major implementation, you did not tap into all the functionality that exists in the system. Due to budget or time constraints or people just wanting to be done with the project, they leave certain needs on the table. Data analytics is a very commonly left on the table item. But those things that are left on the table, because the tracking of what's completed, what's not, is naturally done in the tool during the implementation, that becomes the parking lot from which the optimization phase one activities can be based. You knock off a lot of those parking lot items in the phase one of optimizations, take a break, and the remaining items are what you would go after in optimization phase two. And now for the side by side. In the traditional model, again, you have the project management and project management structure as a floating layer, separate and on top of the implementation activities. They're probably using a ton of other tools too. They're probably using Slack, ClickUp, Smartsheet, SharePoint, and the worst culprit of all, email. They're sending information back and forth in thousands and tens of thousands of emails. Very hard to track a project using those kinds of tools, especially when there's so many tools. And to reiterate that point, this work stream is not aligned with this major work stream, is not aligned with this follow-on work stream. The synopsis of our method, the PM tool already built specifically for ERP life cycles contains all the structure, all the methodologies, and all the tooling for you to do your scoping, make your decisions, gather your requirements, select your system, leverage that to move forward on the implementation, and then perform your optimization waves as follow-ons to parking lot items, that are already just captured here. And not just that, you ended up getting way more features, way more functionality, much more using our method with, get this, far fewer hours and a lot less overall cost. Without all of the waste in the consulting efforts, your employees' time to get a better design, to get a better product, well, that's unheard of. And if you just take a quick glimpse in our model versus the traditional, you're only able to do one optimization wave, and you'll probably follow it with at least 4 more. In our model, in the same timeline with less cost, less effort, less hours, you're probably able to capture 2, and you may be done with all your parking lot items in this duration. It's just a different world.